Hello, all. Welcome back to another episode of Cargo Chronicles. I'm Fred McMurray along with Eric Trout, Senior Vice President of Business Development on Harbor Freight Transport. Ooh, almost dropped that, and then we would have had a copyright issue, but I
Yeah,
didn't save it there.
we're the
Um,
originals. We're the originals. 78 years. I gotta throw that out.
78 years. That's pretty awesome. And we're going to kind of use that as a framework for today's episode, which is the evolution of trucking in the supply chain. I'm not going to say that three times fast because my lips are fat today. So we're going to use that as kind of the perspective as we talk with our guest, Pete Coumounduros.
Perfect.
Ah,
Perfect.
Pete, first tell us who you're with and why you're there.
Absolutely. I'm self-employed as a consultant, Transportation Solutions Roundtable. My background is coming out of an asset-based trucking company, working then for a supply chain tech company, kind of morphing the two worlds together, offering sort of those solutions for shippers and carriers who are looking for, needs to be satisfied in the industry, helping tech startup companies and supply chain find their go-to-market strategy using the background of my years in the supply chain side to kind of find the solutions, find the right ICP, and kind of move forward and build one happy little universe.
So you're kind of like that connector network for the transportation industry or the cargo industry.
In a way, yes.
Hmm.
Kind of bridging two worlds.
Yeah, I understand a bit about that. You got to watch it. Sometimes that puts you on a, Cargo Chronicles podcast. All right. So because Pete wasn't around when the founder of Harbor Freight Transport kicked in, let's just go back to, I think, when you started, Pete, it was 1990.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So Eric, what did Harbor Freight Transport look like in 1990?
Wow, we were much smaller. I really haven't gone too much into the family history of it, but I do know that Steve's grandfather started the business out of Staten Island, New York. That great American dream: one truck, one driver, and here we are, 78 years later, and we're right around 100 drivers. I'd say company wide, we're probably 275, close to 300 employees, multiple locations. So yeah, this is the second time, well, actually third time I've worked for family owned trucking companies, and it's been exactly the same way. One truck, one driver. And it's a great way. America was built on small businesses, right? And trucking was is and always will be a huge integral part of the American commerce. So, it's here we are, Newark, New Jersey, Savannah, Georgia, and we've got terminal operations at all major ports.
So before I go to Pete, you said something there that kind of triggered me. You said, this is the third time I've worked for a family-owned business and they're all
Yeah.
the same. So I know in my career before I become the marketing dude who became the podcaster dude, I know in my tech career I work for several family-owned businesses.
Mhm.
Um, but how are they different in the trucking transportation industry? How are they different from the non-family owned?
Well, I mean, my experience
Hmm.
has been it's been really favorable. I've worked the largest family-owned less than truckload carrier, Estes Express, right, based here in Richmond, Virginia. Even though they are a multi-billion-dollar company, it's family-run, and that family atmosphere really just resonates throughout the entire culture of the company, right? and it's taking care of people. Drivers are what drives the company, and they are primarily the ones that are looked out after the most, right? Back room office support, things like that. We're there to support them. Without the drivers, we can't do our jobs. So yeah, when I first got into trucking, it was a family owned first class mail U.S. postal contractor, and we had about 145 trucks in that operation. Then, at Estes Express, largest family owned less than truckload company, tens of thousands of pieces of equipment, and just that family atmosphere. I can tell you, walking into the boardroom and talking to Rob Estes was just like, meeting anybody out in the hallway, just a really down to earth person. And here at Harbor Freight, we have the same culture, right? Steve Senior, Steve Junior, very personable people, excellent to talk to, unbelievably knowledgeable about the industry and what they do. And again, that whole premise of taking care of your employees, it really, it's in the DNA of those family run companies, right? So I've worked for Fortune 500 companies, and you're only as good as the last shareholder meeting, and that can be, that can put a lot of stress on people. But when it's family, it's really true and near and dear to your heart, for sure.
Must be different than in some of the industries I've had, because I still remember one of the stupidest questions I ever got was, well, no, it's an 800 number. That means it's free.
Right.
And I had to explain, dude, there's three people in any phone call. Somebody who makes it, somebody who gets it, and the phone company. And I can tell you, out of those three people, the phone company is never paying for the call, one or the other
Right.
two. So
Yeah.
if the people calling in aren't getting it free,
No, we're not
stop
either.
telling your brokers to call it in free. So, Pete, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So you started in 1990.
Yep.
What was the industry like then? Give us a little synopsis.
Yeah, it was funny because coming into the industry, it was something where it was just a very manually driven industry. It was very much phone. It was knocking on doors, door to door, looking for new business. It was relying upon gut feeling versus data. It was very unstructured. It was before technology. I mean,
Yeah.
the quote high tech BI tools were Lotus 1 2 3. It was something where you became a programmer not because you were interested, but because you stopped wanting to add up numbers. You took manual payroll sheets and you put them onto paper, then you put them into a spreadsheet so they would do the math. It was you were FedExing documents all the time before fax machines.
Mm.
You were posting loads and looking for loads off of dial-a-truck, which we now call DAT. And
DAT.
I
and
remember
it's
it.
amazing how people hear these acronyms and don't know what really it was. It was a telephone, excuse me, a TV in a truck stop. I would call up going, hey, I have a truck in this area. Any loads? He's at truck stop 108 right now. Or I'm posting a load at truck stop 639. And it was very much a call and post type industry. As an asset-based provider, I remember we used to buy toll tickets. I'd buy books of toll tickets, one for the George Washington Bridge, one for the Triborough. I'd give them out to my drivers. One GW, you have to think about their route and think about what you need for toll tickets to give them. Advances were, almost like nuclear codes to give an advance and
That's right.
security code. Off one
Yeah.
digit, you can get a call 3 a.m. looking for the, the right digit.
Com checks, right?
Com checks. Oh my God, Eric, you remember that? Geez, it was crazy. Drivers calling you from a payphone
Yeah.
because there was no cell phones. This is before beepers even became prevalent. And you don't want to put beepers with the driver because if you beep them for something that was non-critical, they could be stuck in traffic. Now they're looking for an exit to call you maybe a half hour later. And it's like, where are you right now? That was never the question you asked them because where are you meant it was going to add a half hour's transit time because now they're going off the highway back onto the highway again.
Y- You know, Pete, it's funny. I remember working with a retired Virginia State police officer, and he was our safety consultant, and he put an interesting. He said on average, when an 18-wheeler gets off of a ramp, gets off the highway,
Mhm.
it's a 45-minute ordeal. Just
Yep.
to quickly go to the restroom, right? It's
Yep.
45 minutes, and people don't think about that. So,
Yeah, that's about what it takes me. Sorry, never mind.
yeah. But no, I mean, what was it like back then? It was things got done remarkably
Oh yeah.
well, right? And efficiently.
And we never
Um,
thought about it either. It just we did it. I remember
yeah.
driver pay sheets coming in. And this was before any technology like PC Miler, which was
Yeah.
cutting edge back then. I had a 3-digit zip book for the zip codes. I looked up the cities they went to, and I go, okay, Newark, New Jersey 073 to Boston 021. Look up the 3-digit zips accordingly, and then look at the mileage 222.
Yeah.
Write it down and go right down
100%.
the line. I got PC Miler. I thought I discovered fire. It was like, wow, I can do this all in
Yeah.
one sitting.
So,
And then,
given that I started out in those late 80s in my tech career, and the other thing you didn't have was email.
right.
No, none at all.
Yeah. I
No.
remember being the one that got yelled at when it wasn't working and people couldn't get it because you weren't dealing with tech geniuses here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get email until I think maybe late 90s. And even then it was a luxury type item. With the, I
Right.
remember a cord hanging from the ceiling that came down. That was the dial-in modem line for
Yep.
a encoded line we had. It was crazy. You looked at it sort of one time a day, 2 times a day. It was never anything that was embedded in your day-to-day operation by any means at all.
All right. So we've been kind of tracking along the tech route. So before we jump to the current state, I remember the late 90s and I remember all Y2K and all the oh my God, we're all gonna die and this, that, and the other thing. And everybody wanted to you could make thousands of dollars per day being a COBOL programmer. How did the Y2K affect the trucking industry?
From our side, we saw it more from the preppers movement than from the tech side. Um, we had a lot of people that like talked to us like 3 or 4 months before Y2K actually occurred, looking to move truckloads of water into retail stores,
Really?
truckloads of canned goods into retail stores. And it was more along that line than we saw it. We didn't have much technology back then. We weren't too concerned about it. I remember buying like $100 anti-Norton, I forget the name of the
No,
company.
antivirus. Yeah, it's okay.
Antivirus, yeah. And it was $100. It was on for our mainframe system, which again wasn't connected to anything in the outside world. I didn't know why I bought it looking back on it. It was just us. But everybody said you had to have it. So it was $100. We bought it at CompUSA or something. And
Right.
we felt good. So, okay, mission forward. We go into New Year's very comfortable. But mostly from that side of like people prepping for what's going to happen if the world falls apart. Can I get water, canned goods, that type of
Yeah.
thing? That's what we really saw.
I mean, and the drivers were still doing paper logs, and the technology piece really had not caught up with the trucking industry. Really, I mean, Qualcomm came on, and that's when things, in my opinion, my experience, once Qualcomm came and we started putting onboard computers into trucks where drivers could, communicate via the Qualcomm system, that's really when things started to get automated, right?
Yeah.
Completing all your IFTA taxes and calculating mileages on a quarterly basis, that was still just really, really manual, going through driver's logs and recreating their moves, right, and calculating the miles in between states, But Qualcomm came in and for me, my experience was that was really eye opening, and
Yeah.
that's when I think technology really, really hit the trucking industry,
It's funny you say that because I think about like the fuel tax you just talked about. I actually had a spreadsheet, back to spreadsheets, that I would have all of our driver fuel purchases. We type in there line by line all the
Yeah,
time. And I had like truck number and purchase state in one big grid. So you'd go in
yeah.
truck 29, New Jersey, truck 31, Connecticut, put the gallons in there, tally it up, and we do our fuel taxes based on that. And it was crazy because, invariably once a quarter, one of us would save over an old version without the new data. So
Right.
what you typed in that day was gone. You're like, oh
Yeah,
no, you have the pile of receipts, you'd hand type them in again. Um,
yeah.
and it
And you
was,
see, I was the guy you panically called in IT to say, "Oh my God, I've just done this. Is there anything you could do?"
So Fred, just going on IFTA taxes, not only is the trucking industry unrightfully charged higher fuel
Mm,
prices, but now you've always got to pay to each state that you traverse an extra tax, for the wear and tear of the road that the truck goes through.
yeah.
So it's, yeah, I
Fuel
mean,
use
it
tax, how much fuel you should have bought in that
should have
trip.
bought. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just, they get you any way, shape, or form, right? So,
Well, it's funny, Eric, after we went a number of years of paying that and didn't think there's any other option for it, I took that spreadsheet and said, well, why don't let's just update this every week. And if we need to buy more fuel in a certain state, we'll buy more there. It might cost a few cents more per gallon,
yeah,
but we're going to save on the overall use tax and we're more balanced. We started doing that, and that saved us a lot of money. But
yeah,
again, it was all done very manually, and it was chasing drivers down for receipts so we could accurately check it. But a crazy way to, again, like you said, chase this fictitious tax because you had to pay it.
right.
I dealt with fleet leasing companies,
Yeah.
and I remember having to be the bozo that had to pull data off an AS400
Oh,
and stick it into a database so it could get to either sales folks or the accounting department.
Still have nightmares about big green bar paper, right?
Oh,
yeah.
I
Oh,
I lived it all, and I still remember the time that the one salesman came and said his laptop was broken
yeah.
because in order to filter data, he had to either use 0 or -1, and he couldn't find his -1 key.
Oh my God.
So
uh,
believe me, I've seen all that. That's why I kind of love this discussion of technology as we go through. So after Y2K,
Yep.
what was that next big bump in technology that the industry either had forced on it or said, "Ooh, we want to do this because it'll give us, in theory, more productivity, profitability."
Coming just after Y2K and sadly combined with 9/11, we started doing a lot more contract work, a lot more dedicated work, line haul work for a lot of clients of ours, like freight forwarders, some airlines, integrators, and they're big and printing companies with expedited needs. Their need was, where's the truck? What time did he arrive? And there was none of the technology out there they have today. It's widespread. A buddy of mine had worked for I forget the Nextel at the time.
next
It was
up.
a
The next
driver
stuff.
app. We
Yeah.
actually took that Nextel, which was driver based, and we literally nailed it into a steel frame into a tractor. So it became a tractor based technology indirectly. and we had a charge hooked up to us, always stay charged. And we would literally just track that trailer and the tractor with the Nextel always engaged to know where it was. And it was our first run at a GPS. And it was insane because the data we got were like, oh my God, he's actually in Windsor, Connecticut right now. Oh my God, he's actually going through Hartford, Connecticut right now. It was eye-opening. After that, we're like, what can we do with trailers? Because we had trailers we had dropped in our fleet all over the place. We routinely lost. We had about 100 trailers in our fleet at the time. We lost 4 or 5 trailers every year. And you know what? We accepted that. We accepted that we're going to lose trailers. We accepted that we're not going to find them. And we just ate the cost and bought 4 or 5 more. And someone came in from, I think it was TIP and Spear, one of those companies, trailer leasing at the time, trailer tracking, said, we have this new technology for trailers. And they knew about our Nextel thing. They're like, well, there's a power source that goes to sleep, pop, 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 it reawakes and it moves. Like, great. How much is it was like $12 a month per trailer. Like, oh my God, we could lose no trailers and be way out of the curve. This would be great. We put those in the trailers, and all of a sudden, our trailer fleet populated where they actually were. And we were astounded. I remember the first call I had was in the post office in New Jersey, in Jersey City. We did a lot of work with them, and they would lose trailers all the time. And they used to call up, say, you're supposed to have 6 trailers here. Like, I go, they're in the yard. Nope, no, they're not. They wouldn't look. They would just say that they're gone. They couldn't find them. And we'd run down, bring 6 more trailers. A month later, we'd find 24 trailers gangled in the corner somewhere. So this first time with the GPS, I said, let me check the trailer GPS. I check it. I go zoom in. I go, hey, can you check in the back corner by the Route 1 and 9 yard there? This shows that the 6 trailers all clustered back there. They go, no, we've already looked everywhere. I go, please check. My GPS says it's there. So now we're on a conference call, not like this, phone conference call. And I hear him go to the walkie-talkie to somebody. Hey, check in the back there. See if it's there. They claim it's there. The guy goes back. I hear it pause, pause, pause. I hear him yell back to his phone going, yeah, we got him. They're behind this other trailer lot back here too. We got him. We're all set. I felt vindicated. I felt like I got this huge ROI for buying those trailer GPSs. At that point, it became more in tune with technology for like just location of equipment for internal purposes more than external purposes. But that was a huge aha moment for us.
You lost that many trailers?
Oh, yeah.
People take them home for, mother-in-law units?
Honestly, they end up with in the yard somewhere. A ship will load up someone else's trailer. They'll say, pull the trailer, you pull it, it winds up at someone else's yard, and they just never really get around to reloading it, and they try to or whatever. Or some people just, they get a trailer, they just keep it. Scratch off the VIN, go to the junkyard, get another VIN, bring it to life again, register it, and there it is. It's their trailer now. There's all kinds of ways that these things happen. I've been on vacation. I've seen containers, and Eric, you've seen this, containers in people's yards. I was in someone's, beach house made of 2 containers fused together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
all right, Eric. What's your lost container story? Because we could do a whole theme of lost container stories.
Yeah. I mean, I've got some stories from,
give us one.
That first class postal contractor that I worked for. Probably about once every 3 months, we'd have to buy a bus ticket, for some homeless person who happened to be sleeping in the back of one of our trailers, and driver didn't do their pre-trip and repositioned the trailer. And next thing you know, they're 350 miles away from where they need to be, and have to buy a bus ticket and get that person back. It's everybody's got stories about stolen trailers. When I used to have my own truck, I ran a small company called Trout lines, and I had a piece of business where I was delivering to Walmart distribution centers. but this was for Schneider National. And, me being the hands-on person I am, I said, hey, let me go ahead and take a trip. I'll drive the truck this time, give my driver a little break. So I took a trip to Mountaintop, PA, picked up a trailer that, the broker told me to go pick up. And it was bright orange and had Schneider on it. And lo and behold, I got pulled over, right, just for a safety inspection. And while doing the safety inspection, the police officer ran the VIN on the trailer and it was reported as stolen, right? And so now I'm in hot water because I'm pulling a reportedly stolen trailer. So it just, that one,
So this wasn't the basis of the very famous song in the 70s or 80s by C.W. McCall, was it? No, that's before your time. Never mind. Convoy. Never mind. All right. So, Pete, in your long and storied career, what's the strangest, most unique client or job you've done?
Kind of sentimentally as a Boston guy, we had a client that actually had the contract that took care of the Boston Celtics parquet floor. And that was, an amazing client as was. But what really made it really special was when the old Boston Garden closed, we had to go in with a couple of flatbeds. They took each piece of the parquet floor, put it on our flatbeds, and we had police escort going to where they were storing it and refurbishing it before they brought it back to the new garden. And that was such an amazing job to watch because it wasn't just a trucking job. It was watching history being loaded onto the trailers and looking at all the pieces come together and how unique they were. Every piece had to have a certain identifier to it. And then watching being set up in, the south of Boston in an abandoned warehouse under police guard 24 hours, reset up. They finished it, refinished it, repolished it, went back a month later, picked it up, brought it back to the new garden, and they set it up. And every game I watched the Celtics after that, I'm like, wow, we're part of history. And it really was moving because the old guard was closing, new guard was coming in. We kind of helped bridge it in a certain way. It was really a neat job.
So there was a rumor that there was a missing piece and that they had to replace. Did you make the piece disappear?
Is this being recorded?
Yes, it is.
Pete actually uses it for his desk chair, right?
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. Me and the leprechaun sitting right here together all the time.
Right.
All right, Eric, since I don't think I've ever asked you the weirdest client or most oddball client you've ever been at or with, or,
I'll go with Pete's theme. Probably the most interesting and most gratifying was when I was with Estes Express. And this was after Hurricane Katrina. And we saw all of those horrible pictures of 800 trucks lining the road and citizens could not get drinking water, etc. And I was part of a team, FEMA Region 6, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, came and they asked us to help design a new distribution network for them to be able to get goods, disaster relief products, efficiently to the citizens in disaster areas. And so for about 7 years I was a lead for those projects, right? And it would just, we set up this new method of distribution, and Rob Estes gave us 100% support, and that was the most satisfying work that I've ever done. It was long days, long weeks. You could be out 65 days, on a mission. It was literally like starting a trucking or a distribution network from scratch every time you go out, right? So we'd go to an old abandoned warehouse or an abandoned less than truckload terminal, and we'd bring in forklifts. We'd fly in dock workers from areas that weren't affected by the storm. We'd have drivers come in, and it was really satisfying work. I got to see a lot of great things happen. So it was good. And we saved the government millions of dollars.
No, you didn't. You
Yes,
just
we
meant no,
did. We
no.
did.
What
It probably
happens
went
is
somewhere else.
exactly the government does not save money.
You're right about that. Yeah.
So whatever you saved went in one hand and out another.
Yes, you're correct. I stand corrected.
I give you kudos for trying.
Right.
All right, so we've been hanging in the past, and there's a whole lot of future technology that's either whacking us in the face or about to. So before we talk about the technology, there are two reasons why companies, from what I've been able to tell, implement technologies. One, the CEO gets sold something, thinks it's a good idea, and forces it down everyone's throat. Or two, somebody says, ooh, this is a good idea to improve productivity, profitability, make us more successful. So on that, we'll use the S word to start. On that idea of success, how does the industry define success over the next decade? We see all kinds of crap happening in the Middle East with cargo not getting through, and some companies are winning, some aren't. So, Keith, how do you define success in the industry in the future?
I think for me personally, I think a somewhat different approach or vision on it is I look at the success part as not just a tech, based solution. I think at first to start with, any company, trucking especially, makes a decision on how they are going to help their clients. And once you have that mindset of, okay, I'm a company, how am I help my clients? Then getting into what's the ROI on what I'm doing should be measured in not just dollars and cents, but how I'm going to help my client relationship lengthen and deepen, because that's really where the dollars come into play long term. And part of that then becomes, if I'm going to do that, how's technology play a role in that? And that's where I think the, foundation of understanding that I want to do something for my clients. I want an ROI to be how I serve them long term. How can I then use technology to help support that direction?
Okay. So in other words, for you, the industry has to be taking care of its clients.
Correct. And then part of that, the big part is technology at that point, how that really helps you take care of your clients and deepen your relationship with your clients. And the ROI isn't just, I bought tech for $60, I saved 600, my ROI is 10x. That's part of it. That's a big part of it. But how did that investment in technology help you help your clients achieve their goals by them hiring you to do that job? And then they're going to hire you again and again and again, so that your ROI is the pure cost of technology plus the continued cash from that client to keep hiring you to do that service over and over again. So it's a combination of the two.
I love that. And that's not just the transportation or logistics industry. Eric, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, technology, how is the industry going to, measure success? Yeah, I guess, it's not going away. Trucking and logistics, it's not going away, right? I've seen all kinds of, AI is going to replace you, robots are going to replace you, autonomous trucks are going to replace you.
We're going to go there.
Yeah, it's a human industry, right? At the end of the day, you need the humans, right? And I've actually, I kind of wear two hats, right? Business development and then operations. And, COVID made it real easy for people to work from home and do Zoom calls, et cetera, right? And I'm starting to see the shift the other way. People are getting sick of it, right? And
Hmm.
they want the human element again. They want to press flesh, right? They want to shake hands. They want to make sure that you know you have the material handling or the trucks that you say you have, because as we've seen with technology, man, you can make things look extremely good, right? and
Hmm.
and it's a lot of it can be smoke and mirrors. So you know how am I going to measure success? Continual in a family run business, continual support from our clients, right? Make sure that our business levels are increasing year over year, maximizing profitability, and reinvesting back into our workforce, into our company, right? So new technology, new equipment, safer equipment, et cetera, right? So I think as long as those trends or those patterns continue, that's success in my mind.
Okay. Well, you hit the couple of the um, tech boogeymen, tech opportunities, tech things that could destroy all of us, and especially for the transportation industry. One of them is autonomous vehicles. Scares the crap out of me that there's a just a robocab coming down the street that, you know, uh, I get hit because I can't jump out of the way. Uh, who gets sued? Is my question. Um, and then so autonomous vehicles are a huge thing. So I see a ocean ocean cargo trip that's autonomous crashes into the George Washington Bridge. Who's liable? The other thing is AI, because we already know AI tends to make younger folks stupider.
Yes,
Um,
100%.
it does, because they haven't learned without the computer how to come to answers.
Right.
I always liken it to, if you've ever been stuck in a Midwest snowstorm, you got no cell phone, and you don't know you're in that ditch. You figure out how to get there. You have developed critical thinking skills, and your father doesn't whack you upside the head.
Yeah.
So, AI, autonomous vehicles, what's the big issue? I understand the opportunities, but what's the big issues to embracing each of those rather than the positive? What's the negative to embracing each one of those? Who wants to jump in?
Honestly, from the autonomous side, AI side, I think the big thing is understanding what exactly it is scares people. Because I think it's the idea of autonomous trucking. Your idea of, well, this big truck coming down the road, who's behind it, who's driving it. There's this, what I'll call progression of acceptance. It goes back to way back when it was, I remember going online to make an airline reservation for the first time online. I was scared to death, like, who took my credit card? Do I
Right.
actually have a ticket? I'd call the airline, be on hold a half hour to go, did I actually make this? They go, oh, yeah, we got it right here. And I think the same thing happened with autonomous trucking. It's starting off in small, remote lanes, Texas, where it goes Dallas to Houston, big, wide open roads, acceptance, PR, and they kind of get used to it. I don't think you'll ever see highways of just autonomous trucks running all over the place up in the Northeast, in downtown New York City, on the George Washington Bridge. You may see dedicated lanes of autonomous trucks, like on the I-90 coast to coast, certain lanes, but they'll pop into a local yard right off the highway, and local P&D drivers will pick up. So I think once people understand that this truck isn't coming around your street corner and going to come into your house and break your porch and everything else. Once people get that it's a use application in where it could be safely operated, people go, okay, I think I kind of see that. I think that's what scares people, is understanding where it's going to be
Yeah.
used.
I kind of use the scenario of intermodal trucking, intermodal shipping, right? On the railroads, domestic intermodal. There was a huge push, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, you know, to get trucks off the road, increase the intermodal lanes. Trains are operated by humans. I mean, every single train is operated by a human. There's derailments every single year on the train, right? So the idea of an autonomous vehicle, 80,000 pounds, driving down the road, you know, uh, the trucking industry still has trucks on the road, right? We didn't switch everything over to domestic intermodal. Yeah, it's nice, you know, it's a cost savings, but there's still people who are apprehensive about it, right? Because they hear the old stories, oh, your cargo's going to get damaged because you're bumping the cars and everything, you know, the rail cars and um, you know, so I think autonomous trucking, there's a lot of hurdles to get over that. And, you know, again, 80,000 pounds running down the road with, you know, human drivers, right? That's the other concern, right? Is, hey, that's fine, man. The truck might be good to run autonomously, but you still have these, you know, pedestrian vehicles out there that are, you know, let's face it, you know, we've got some horrible drivers in the US, you know, so whether it's dedicated lanes, you know, that's just a lot of capital expenditure for dedicated lanes, et cetera. So I think there are other wins that could be had versus, you know, the autonomous truck taking, you know, the AI approach, you know, how can we do daily functions better utilizing AI? Um, and you know, coming from a family company, that's not to replace people, right? You know, a large corporation might be looking at technology to, hey, let's shave headcount, right? Reduce costs or overhead. But, you know, we kind of look at it as, hey, what can we do? You know, what are the menial jobs or, you know, the tasks that AI can replace to make our jobs more efficient so that we can refocus or add more focus on, you know, customer support and customer satisfaction and doing the right job. So you know, I think autonomous vehicles, yeah, you know, I hope not to see them in my lifetime. I'll probably be proven wrong.
Ah,
You know, I'd rather rely on technology on some, you know, quick, easy wins, you know, versus going out and trying to replace jobs for truck drivers.
all I'm going to say is, in your example about railroad train derailments, and yes, they do happen, and you always know who to sue.
Yes, that's true.
And to me, with the issue with autonomous vehicles is you can't sue the owner, or you could, but he can just say
Yeah,
it's the computer company or the vehicle.
program.
It's not my fault. It did blah. So my issue always is who do the lawyers sue?
Yeah, it'd be great to put them out of business, wouldn't it? But you
Oh,
know,
I think lawyers are the only thing that keeps us from succumbing to AI, the
yeah.
matrix. All right. So, Pete, what's your thoughts on, since Eric kind of went from
Yeah.
uh, autonomous to AI, what's your thoughts on AI?
You know, I think in terms of like what people's concerns with I think also stems from being scared of how to approach it. Because I think at its core, people hear at these conferences, in articles, get AI, you need AI, you need AI, get it. It's almost like, you know, they get it, but they don't realize what it is and not ready for it. It's kind of like if you get a health plan to say, you know what, here's a plan to lose 50 pounds. You got the plan, but how are you going to execute it? Are you ready for it? And it's the same thing. Do you have the right workflows identified? Do you know what your goals are? Do you know what your data sources are? You have to kind of pull all that together and then think about what would I want to ask if I had the ability to ask of this data. And kind of almost you have to do a lot of homework to prep yourself for AI. All AI does is take everything you have in place and accelerate the execution of it, accelerate the insights between questions you have that you may have done with three different, swivels from this keyboard to this keyboard to this keyboard to bring the data together. It's doing that for you. It's not a magic wand. It's just an accelerant of the execution with taking more than insight into one spot. If you're not ready for it, have those sources pointing into it, it's not going to do anything for you. It's like having this great big house that has a lot of great, ice makers and this thing and filtration systems. The main water pipe isn't coming in. Doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything. And that's what AI, I think, is. People don't know how to prepare for it properly before really sinking into it.
Well, all I'd say is it's an incredibly powerful tool.
Mm-hmm.
So is dynamite.
Yeah.
Should everybody have a stick? I'll leave that to a future episode. All right. So, Pete, A, how do people get a hold of you? B, anything we haven't hit that you think our listeners, viewers should know?
No, I think that just, keep your eyes and ears on different articles about technology and really think about how does that help me help my clients? How does it help me save on the cost of my operation or add revenue? Think about it when we took the technology, how it's going to help you in any of those areas. To get a hold of me through LinkedIn, Pete Coumounduros, my email address, pete01867@gmail.com. Easiest way through LinkedIn, really.
Is there a Pete's transportation blog, podcast, live stream, anything like that?
Forthcoming.
Okay, good. Eric, last thoughts from you and how people get a hold of you.
Well, as always, you can reach me via email, etrout@harborusa.com. I guess my last thoughts on it kind of resonate like, what Pete was saying. Everybody wants to have autonomous vehicles and AI, right? And I think we've got a lot of catching up to do, infrastructure wise. It's great. Politicians are pushing legislation down on us and, about clean vehicles and things like that. And here we are, the power grid system can't even support it. Right. So it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a big trucker advocate. Always have been, always will be. It's a really thankless job.
Mm-hmm.
And, I go back to those days when people were complaining, there's nothing on the shelf because of COVID, right? Everything that is on the store shelf has been delivered by a truck driver, one way, shape, or form, right? So don't be afraid of them. They're human beings, just like you and myself, and they're professionals. They are professionals at the end of the day. That is their job, and they do it with pride. So show a little appreciation to them if you get a chance.
And folks, I am not AI, so therefore you don't got to worry about me. So this has been a wonderfully tech-based Cargo Chronicles. We'll be back again next week with another episode that probably won't be nearly as tech-based, and I will be sadder, but that's okay. I'm Fred McMurray. Thanks for watching Cargo Chronicles or listening, depending on what you're doing.